What the fuck is up? My name is Noah Hills. You can find me on Twitter at noahmoreparties. You can find me on TikTok at noahmoreparties. And you can find me at noahmoreparties.com, where I have all of my running back rankings and written analysis for Devy leagues, dynasty leagues, and rookie drafts. And while you're at it, go over to the PRIZEPICKS app and throw down some money on a free square bet, essentially. They've got Patrick Mahomes, 0.5 passing yards in the Super Bowl. You take the over. It's a free square. Use promo code BDGE. Deposit match up to, I think, $100. So what do you have to lose? And today's video is the same concept as a video that I did last offseason early on, where I let a randomizer wheel, which I'm sure you can see here on the screen, a randomizer wheel of all of the 2023 rookie running backs. I'm going to spin it 5 times and let it choose my top 5. Won't be my real top 5, but it's going to choose a top 5 of running backs in this class. And the gimmick of the video is each running back like the first running back that it picks, I have to explain how in 3 years from now, we're looking back and this guy was the RB5 in this class. And then it's going to pick another random guy to be RB4. And I got to try to find legitimate things in these guys' profiles that could help them end up as the RB5 or the RB4 in this class. Last year, I did this. I spun the wheel beforehand, prepped my answers, and then filmed a video. I'm spinning as I film here. We'll see how it goes. But RB5. Oh, also what I'm going to do is give you a 1 to 4 scale rating, of 4 being, I think this guy can probably be the RB5, like, in real life, and 1 is like, no way this guy would actually be the RB1, or the RB5, whatever. You understand what I'm saying. Okay, the first guy, we're going to spin the big magic wheel of running backs. There it goes. What do we got? RB5 in this year's class is Jahmyr Gibbs. Okay, excellent. I think this is a fairly easy one because Jamir Gibbs is one of the best running backs in this class. So if in 3 years' time he ends up as one of the 5 best running backs in this class, I think based on most people's expectations, that would be a little bit of a disappointment for Jamir Gibbs. He is being ranked, for the most part, it's like the RB2, sometimes the RB3 for people who like, I don't know, Sean Tucker randomly, or I don't know. Some people have Jamir Gibbs at RB3. But if you have him at RB2, it's because you think he's got an elite pass-catching skill set, which he does, and you also believe he's going to get significant work on the ground for a guy who's like around 200 pounds, maybe around 205. Relatively skinny based on what he was listed at Alabama at 5'11". So a small player, a relatively thin player, and a guy who, like, the advanced metrics don't really like as a pure runner. I know lots of rushing yards over expected models for college football didn't like Gibbs very much. His numbers in box adjusted efficiency rating and relative success rate were not very impressive at all. He succeeded on his carries 3% less often than his college teammates did, given the down and distance situations he was carrying the ball in and things like that. So not a very consistent runner on a per carry basis, good in the open field. He's shifty, he's elusive, he catches passes really well. If he ends up as the RB5 in this class, it's because he disappoints a little bit relative to a lot of people's expectations as a runner, and turns out to be kind of a pure satellite back type, which isn't bad, but maybe not what people are hoping for. I think he could be the RB5 in this class in that scenario, and he definitely has potential for more. So I would put, on a 1 to 4 scale, I would say 4, that he could be at least the RB5. I think he can definitely be at least the RB5. All right, Wheel. Who's the RB4 in this class? Looks like it's going to be Chase Brown out of Illinois. He is a 5th-year guy, 5th-year senior, was just at the Senior Bowl, where reports said he had kind of an up and down week. Saw some poor pass block reps and stuff like that. But I know that other people are like really, really impressed by Chase Brown. I haven't personally watched any film on him, but the numbers are really good. His team relative efficiency numbers based on like the box counts, his box adjusted efficiency rating, 130%. So the average carry for Chase Brown was worth 30% more than the average carry for the other guys on his team. He was succeeding on 5% more of his carries than the other guys on his team were, given the box counts he was facing. Those are near elite numbers. Like Kenneth Walker last year was at like 144 and I think like 4 maybe, respectively, with those two numbers. So Chase Brown is right up there as far as like efficiency numbers goes, being the full package as a runner. as almost as a guy like Kenneth Walker who came out last year. The problem with Chase Brown is he's pretty small. He's like I think he's 204, 206, something like that. He's not very big, relatively small, didn't catch a ton of passes in college, but if he's the RB4, it's because he lands somewhere and ends up in like a Devontae Freeman type role or something like that, or like a Phillip Lindsay type role where he can just be a smaller back, but really efficient on the ground on a good offense. I think that is within Chase Brown's range of outcomes. I don't think it's likely. I'd give it a 2 out of 4, but that's his path to kind of high-end fantasy relevance in the NFL. Our RB3, according to The Wheel, is Deuce Vaughn, who's another fun player, another very small player, but the odds of him being like a top 5 running back completely depend on what sort of offense he ends up in. If he ends up on some team with some old fuddy-duddy at offensive coordinator who just wants to pound the ball, like Deuce Vaughn will be irrelevant in fantasy. If Deuce Vaughn ends up as the RB3 in this class, it's because he ends up on a team with a creative offensive coordinator, on a team that passes the ball a lot, with a quarterback that's willing to check down, so maybe not a downfield thrower like a Mahomes or a Josh Allen who are doing things other than checking the ball down to running backs, and maybe not a runner. Like if he ends up on the Ravens or the Bears or something like that, I don't think this is within his range of outcomes. But if he's on a team with like a pocket passer or someone who's willing to check down, like a Justin Herbert, a Dak Prescott, somebody like that, he can be really useful in fantasy despite his size. He's like 175 pounds, but he's very quick. His efficiency numbers as a runner have been really good throughout his career, but especially as a receiver. He leaves college with a career best 21% target share, which is absolutely nuts. Like for reference, Jamir Gibbs's career high is less than 16%, 15.8%. Deuce Vaughn's career high is 21.2%. So Jamir Gibbs is an elite receiver. Deuce Vaughn is one of the few guys in this class who might be better than him in that area. 3.9 average depth of target. That's the highest in the class by far. Almost 4 yards downfield was this guy's average reception. He's not just catching screens and dump-offs. He's running routes from the slot. He's running angle routes over the middle of the field, killing linebackers in coverage. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be able to do that in the NFL. It's not like he has to beat press coverage coming out of the backfield. He has to be able to shake somebody. He's small, close to the ground, like super elusive and quick. I don't see why he wouldn't be able to beat linebackers in the NFL as well. So if some team sees this guy and is like, he can be Austin Eckler, not the rushing part of Austin Eckler, but like the receiving part of Austin Eckler, or the receiving part of Christian McCaffrey on our NFL team, I think Deuce Vaughn can step into that role and do that. I don't think it's likely that he ends up this guy in the NFL. I'll put it as like a 2 out of 4, but I think that's a legitimate thing that he could do. The RB2 in this class, according to The Wheel, Taijae Spears. Okay. This is an interesting one. This was a guy, he's also small. I think he was actually 204 pounds at the Senior Bowl, which was a step up from like the 197 he was listed at as Tulane. So he's a small guy, but a little bit bigger than we thought, but relatively undersized and from a small school. And I think he's a senior, so played all 4 years in college at a small school, not big dude, but I think he was the Senior Bowl, like, Offensive Player of the Week or something like that for his team. Like, people were drooling over this guy at the Senior Bowl. He is a smooth athlete. He's got great lateral, like, quickness and flexibility and explosiveness. He makes people miss. He catches the ball really smoothly. I've only watched one game of film so far on Taijae Spears, and I had kind of mixed opinions, but I see what people are excited about. There was a play where he, on the goal line, hit a linebacker right, like chest to chest, broke the tackle, and then hit a defense, like a safety chest to chest at the goal line and pushed forward. Ended up being a little bit short, but impressive power against at least a linebacker who's significantly bigger than he is from a guy that's that small. So I like that aspect of his game. I do appreciate how like smooth and quick and slick he is as a pass catcher. And so if he's the RB2 in this class, I think he ends up as like somebody's Aaron Jones somewhere, where he's the uber efficient half of like a 1-2 punch, where one of the guys is like a Jamal Williams or an AJ Dillon who kind of grinds out the tough yards. And then maybe Taijae Spears can get goal line work like Aaron Jones does, and I think he might be able to catch passes in the same way that Aaron Jones does. Aaron Jones is an excellent player, so it's hard to say, like, yeah, Taijae Spears is that level, but I think stylistically, the two of them are very similar. Also similar to, like, a Devontae Freeman type, who I talked about earlier. But Taijae Spears, a lot of people like him. I'm not ranking him in my top 5, but would not be shocked to see him be one of the best running backs in this class. I'll give that a 2 out of 4, but I still really like him as a player so far. And then the RB1 in this class, according to the wheel, is... oh, God. Tion Evans. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. Tion Evans is a guy who isn't on very many people's rankings, but is a personal favorite of mine going back like a year ago. He was a guy who originally went to, I believe it was Hutchinson Community College, which is where Alvin Kamara went. It's kind of like a hot spot for like high-level recruits who need to like bounce a year before going back to D1 or get their grades right. It's a really good community college for like high-level football athletes. So Tion Evans went there, was the #1 JUCO transfer in the country after playing there, ended up at Tennessee for like a year. He had like 80 carries, was super efficient. His like box count numbers and team relative efficiency numbers look awesome. Like, he was dominant at the JUCO level at community college. He was super efficient in the SEC as part of a committee at Tennessee, and then he transferred again last season to Louisville, where he had like another 80 or 90 carries and did the exact same thing in the ACC that he did in the SEC. Was just super efficient. He's never been productive in his career, never been like the lead back on a college team, but he's got good size, 215, 220. I think he was listed at 5'10", so he's probably going to be shorter than that. So like around 5'9" and 215. That's rocked up. He's a pretty good athlete. He breaks tackles. He's been good. 129% box adjusted efficiency rating. 5.8% relative success rate. During his college career, he averaged 1.7 yards per carry more than the other guys on his teams. He's done nothing but be really good on a per touch basis at 3 different schools. And he got a combine invite. And that tells me that NFL teams looked at this guy and was like, we notice him being good on the field. We want to see him test. So despite not very much production, this guy was impressive in limited work in college. I think he's going to test well. He's got good size, not much of a pass catcher. I'd give his odds of being the RB1 in this class at a 1 out of 4. It's absolutely not going to happen. But we've seen recently these NFL running backs that kind of come out of nowhere and are just good runners. Elijah Mitchell out of the 6th round. James Robinson was undrafted. Chris Carson in the 7th round. Tion Evans could be that kind of guy. I think especially if he has a good combine, he's a guy you need to keep your eye on as maybe the sleeper at the back end of this draft class. He's not going to be the RB1, but he's a good player and could be productive in the NFL. So there we go. Our top 5 was Jahmyr Gibbs, then it was Chase Brown, then Deuce Vaughn, then Taijae Spears, then Tion Evans. 5 interesting players in this draft class. I don't know what my next video will be. Find somebody to talk about, gimmicky way to shoehorn different types of discussions about these running backs. But until then, have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Peace.